They never told you that success doesn't begin with effort, or with luck, or even with talent. It begins with thought. Every empire, every invention, every fortune, every life transformed, all started as a single idea in someone's mind. But most people were never taught how powerful that mind truly is. They were told to work harder, study longer, do more. But rarely were they told to think more clearly, more intentionally, more persistently. And that's what they hid from you. You see, everything you see around you was once invisible. A thought, a picture in someone's imagination. The car you drive, the phone you hold, the home you live in, all began in the unseen world of the mind. That's where creation happens first. Yet most people spend their days reacting to life instead of directing it. They allow thoughts to drift like clouds, unaware that those drifting thoughts shape their entire reality. The truth is simple but unsettling. You become what you think about. You cannot think defeat and live victoriously. You cannot think lack and live abundantly. You cannot think fear and walk confidently. The outer world is merely a mirror, quietly reflecting your inner world. If you wish to change your life, change your mind, not in theory, but in discipline, daily practice. What they never told you is that your mind is both a servant and a master. It will do whatever you consistently command it to do, for better or worse. Feed it doubt, and it will deliver confusion. Feed it purpose, and it will carve a path. Feed it fear, and it will build walls. Feed it belief, and it will open doors where none existed before. The mind does not choose. It only responds to what you give it. There's another secret, one hidden in plain sight, and it's that your imagination is not child's play. It is the blueprint of your destiny. When you imagine vividly, your mind begins to accept it as truth, and your actions unconsciously move to make it real. The great thinkers and achievers of history all used this power. They saw in their minds what they wished to see in the world. They refused to accept appearances, and the world eventually conformed to their vision. Most people, however, never learn to control this faculty. They let fear and limitation occupy their imagination. They rehearse failure before it happens. They visualize the worst instead of the best, and then they call it reality. But reality is molded by belief. The person who knows this never again sees themselves as a victim. They understand they are the architect of their experience, the sculptor of their fate. But here's what separates those who succeed from those who only dream: persistence of thought. The mind rewards consistency. The seed of success must be watered daily with attention, belief, and action. One moment of doubt can undo weeks of progress. The great tragedy is that people give up right before their thoughts take root. They dig up the seed to check if it's growing, never realizing that time and patience are part of the law. What they hid from you is that success is not something you chase. It's something you attract by the person you become. You don't run after success, you align yourself with it. You create within yourself the state of mind that matches the life you want, and like a magnet it finds you. That is the quiet, unspoken truth that governs all achievement. And so, if you wish to rise, start within. Guard your mind as you would guard a treasure. Think deliberately, imagine boldly, believe persistently, because the greatest secret ever hidden from humanity is also the simplest one. The world becomes what you think it is. They told you to work hard, to stay busy, to keep pushing forward. But they never told you that the real foundation of success begins in the mind. Before a single action is taken, before the world recognizes your name, before opportunity knocks at your door, everything starts as a single quiet thought. The hidden power of thought is the most underestimated force in human existence. It is invisible, yet it moves everything visible. It creates, destroys, lifts, and reshapes. Every invention, every masterpiece, every fortune began not in the hands, but in the thoughts of someone who understood that the mind is the real workshop of life. The tragedy is that most people live their entire lives never realizing that their thoughts are the architects of their destiny. A thought is not just a flicker of imagination. It is energy, direction, and creation combined. The moment you hold a thought with conviction, your mind begins working silently, assembling ideas, people, and circumstances to match it. The law is unchanging. What you consistently think about, you begin to move toward. And yet, the vast majority of people spend their days letting random, fearful, negative thoughts dominate their minds. They think about what they don't want. They worry, they doubt, they replay failures, and then wonder why their lives mirror those same patterns. The truth they were never told is that the mind cannot distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. It takes whatever thoughts you feed it and turns them into your experience. If a person constantly entertains ideas of lack, struggle, and defeat, their life will inevitably reflect those conditions. The mind is like a fertile garden. It will grow whatever is planted. If you plant weeds, you get weeds. If you plant flowers, you get beauty. But most people let anyone and anything throw seeds into their mental soil. The news, other people's opinions, social media, gossip. They guard their homes, their money, their possessions, but not their thoughts. They never stop to ask, what am I allowing to take root in my mind? The hidden truth is that the world you see around you is not created outside of you. It is projected from within you. Every result in your life is the result of a prior thought, accepted, believed, and repeated until it became part of your reality. The great ones throughout history all understood this. They knew that success begins long before the first action is taken. They held their vision in mind until it became so clear that the world had no choice but to conform to it. They didn't wait for proof. They believed first. They didn't react to circumstances. They created new ones. They used thought as a tool, not as a toy. They guarded it, trained it, disciplined it, because they knew that every thought carries a consequence, and that the quality of their thoughts would determine the quality of their lives. To the ordinary person, a thought seems harmless. It's something that passes through the mind unnoticed and unchecked. But every thought leaves a mark, a subtle impression that builds into habit, and habit builds into destiny. A mind filled with doubt produces hesitation. A mind filled with confidence produces decisive action. A mind filled with fear produces paralysis. And a mind filled with purpose produces progress. What they hid from you is that the mind will give you whatever you ask of it. But you must ask clearly, consistently, and with belief. You cannot think chaos and expect order. You cannot think failure and expect victory. The mind obeys the command it receives most often. So if your life is not yet what you want it to be, the place to begin is not outside. It is within. Start by observing your thoughts. What do you allow yourself to dwell on when no one is watching? What dominates your inner dialogue? What do you believe about yourself when the world is silent? These are the blueprints of your life. You can change your circumstances only by changing the thoughts that created them. Once you understand that the mind is the origin of everything, you begin to take responsibility for what you think, knowing that each thought is a cause and your life is its effect. You become what you think about. These 6 words hold more power than most people will ever realize. They are not poetic, nor are they meant to inspire for a moment. They are a law, unchanging and absolute, operating in every life whether we know it or not. Every person walking this earth is a living reflection of their most dominant thoughts. Whatever occupies your mind the longest becomes the story you live. The mind does not make exceptions. It does not play favorites. And it does not care whether your thoughts are positive or negative. It simply takes what you give it and shapes your world accordingly. If a person constantly thinks of failure, even while hoping for success, their actions will align with the failure they believe in. Their tone, their posture, their effort. All of it becomes colored by the thoughts that dominate them. If another person fills their mind with ideas of growth, progress, and victory, they begin to act in harmony with those ideas. Their behavior changes subtly at first, then profoundly. The secret is that thought always precedes action, and action always produces results. Change the thought, and you change the entire chain of events that follows. People often look at their circumstances and say, "This is who I am," not realizing that their circumstances are just the reflection of who they've been thinking themselves to be. The cause is never outside of you. The cause is always within. The world simply returns what you send out through your thoughts. That is why 2 people can live in the same world, face the same conditions, and yet experience completely different realities. One sees opportunity, the other sees obstacles. One feels empowered, the other feels defeated. The difference lies not in what they see, but in how they think. You become what you think about because thought influences emotion, and emotion drives behavior. A person who constantly entertains thoughts of inadequacy will begin to feel unworthy. Those feelings of unworthiness will make them shrink back from chances, doubt their abilities, and settle for less than they deserve. Another person who thinks thoughts of confidence and purpose will begin to feel strong. That feeling will propel them to take risks, speak up, and persist when others quit. Eventually, the outer world conforms to what the inner world has believed all along. The mind writes the script, and life performs it. But here is what few understand: thinking is not the same as wishing. Most people say they want success, but their thoughts contradict their words. They wish for abundance but dwell on scarcity. They dream of happiness but replay past pain. They talk about goals, yet their inner dialogue whispers doubt and fear. The mind listens not to what you say, but to what you believe. You cannot fool it with empty affirmations or forced positivity. It takes orders only from the thoughts you repeat with conviction, the ones you feel deeply and habitually. It's easy to see this law in others. You can look at someone's life and trace it directly back to the way they think. The chronic complainer lives in a world full of problems because their mind is tuned to see only what's wrong. The grateful person lives in a world of abundance because their mind focuses on what's right. The ambitious thinker finds doors opening, not because the world is easier for them, but because they are alert to opportunity, always expecting it. Whatever a person consistently thinks, they eventually attract, not by magic, but by direction. Their thoughts guide their attention. Their attention guides their choices, and their choices create their results. The mind is a magnet. It pulls toward you the people, conditions, and experiences that resonate with your dominant thoughts. When you think in terms of success, you begin to behave in ways that attract success. You speak differently, you carry yourself differently, you approach problems differently. When you think in terms of failure, you unconsciously invite conditions that confirm your fears. You delay, you hesitate, you give up early. The mind obeys its master, and that master is thought. So the great challenge is not to work harder, but to think higher, to stop feeding the mind with doubt and limitation, and instead fill it with the images, emotions, and beliefs of the life you truly want to live. Every day, your thoughts are building your future, brick by brick, whether you are aware of it or not. And the day you begin to take full responsibility for what you think, you also begin to take control of what you become. The world you see outside of you is not separate from you. It is a reflection of what lives within. Life mirrors back your beliefs, your expectations, your dominant thoughts. Every person, every situation, every circumstance you encounter is responding to the vibration of your inner world. Yet most people live under the illusion that life is something happening to them, not something being projected from them. They blame luck, other people, or random chance, never realizing that their own beliefs are silently shaping every outcome. The hidden truth is that the outer world is a faithful mirror, and it cannot show you anything that you do not first hold in your mind. When a person believes they are capable, their world responds with opportunity. When a person believes they are limited, their world responds with obstacles. The world is not biased, it simply reflects. Two people can face the same situation and interpret it in completely different ways. One sees failure, the other sees feedback. One sees a closed door, the other sees a challenge to grow. The difference lies not in the situation, but in the belief system each carries inside. Your beliefs act like lenses, they color everything you see. Change the lens and the world changes with it. Most people never question their beliefs. They accept them from parents, teachers, culture, and past experiences without realizing that those beliefs have built invisible walls around what they think is possible. If you were told all your life that success is rare, that life is hard, that only a few people make it, you will live as though that were true, not because it is a universal fact, but because your mind will filter out every opportunity that disagrees with it. You won't see what contradicts your belief, because the mind is always seeking to confirm what it already holds. That is the great deception. People think they are seeing reality, when in truth they are only seeing the reflection of their own expectations. The outer world bends to the inner one. If you hold thoughts of abundance, you begin to attract ideas, people, and actions that align with prosperity. If you hold thoughts of scarcity, your mind becomes blind to the very chances that could lead you to more. It's not magic. It's mental alignment. Your beliefs determine your focus, and your focus determines your perception. Whatever you focus on expands. Think long enough about failure, and you'll find more evidence of it. Think long enough about success, and you'll find doors that were always there but unnoticed. The mirror simply obeys the image it is given. What many fail to see is that this reflection operates even in the smallest details. A person who believes people can't be trusted will attract experiences that prove them right. A person who believes people are kind will meet kindness everywhere they go. The world reflects not what you want, but what you expect. Wanting is passive, expecting is belief in motion. Expectation carries a frequency, and life meets you at that level. This is why it's useless to hope for change while holding on to the same limiting thoughts. You cannot change the reflection by touching the mirror. You must change the image standing before it. The most powerful people are not those who control others, but those who control their inner dialogue. They understand that life responds to the thoughts they keep most often. They feed their minds with images of strength, gratitude, growth, and possibility, knowing that the mirror of life has no choice but to echo those same qualities back. They are not surprised by success they expected. They are not broken by setbacks. They see them as temporary reflections of an old belief fading away. Your outer life will always keep pace with your inner life. It cannot exceed it. You cannot outgrow your beliefs. If you believe you are meant to live small, you will pass by greatness every day and never recognize it as yours. If you believe you are meant to achieve, every challenge becomes an invitation to rise. The mirror never lies, it only shows what you are projecting. And so, the quiet secret that most overlook is this: when you master the world within, the world without must follow. The imagination is the most powerful tool the mind possesses, yet it is the one most people use carelessly or not at all. From childhood, we are taught facts, rules, and logic, but rarely are we taught how to use imagination deliberately, and yet every advancement of humanity, every building, every invention, Every work of art first existed in someone's imagination before it ever took physical form. The imagination is not fantasy, it is creation in its earliest stage. What you hold clearly in your mind's eye, you begin to move toward. The images you entertain most often begin to shape the direction of your life. When you close your eyes and picture something vividly, your subconscious mind begins to accept it as truth. It does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. It simply receives instruction and begins to work toward it. The problem is that most people use this power against themselves. They imagine failure before it happens. They visualize rejection before they try. They replay painful memories and call it reflection. They use imagination to reinforce their fears rather than their potential. The imagination was meant to serve creation, not worry. But since the mind always responds to the images we supply, it manifests the emotional tone of whatever we imagine most often. Those who understand this principle use imagination as a blueprint for their future. They create in the unseen before it becomes seen. They mentally build the life they want, and their behavior gradually aligns with that inner picture. When you imagine something long enough and clearly enough, you begin to act as though it were already true. Your tone changes, your decisions change, your confidence strengthens, and people begin to respond differently to you. This is how imagination shapes reality. It doesn't require magic, it requires faith and repetition. You must see it in your mind until the world has no choice but to reflect it back. The imagination is also the mind's rehearsal room. Every skill, every achievement can be practiced first in imagination. Athletes, leaders, and innovators have used this for decades, not because it's mystical, but because the brain follows the mental script it's given. When you visualize success with emotion and clarity, your nervous system begins to behave as though it has already experienced it. You prepare yourself inwardly for what will soon appear outwardly. The difference between those who reach their goals and those who don't often lies in how vividly they have seen it beforehand. But imagination must be disciplined. Left to wander, it drifts into fear, doubt, and worry. The same power that can build can also destroy. The mind will accept whatever picture you repeatedly focus on, whether it serves you or not. If you allow images of defeat, illness, scarcity, or limitation to dominate your mental space, your life will follow the tone of those pictures. Most people unconsciously imagine the worst and then wonder why they feel anxious or unmotivated. They have filled the theater of their mind with dark scenes and then live inside the emotion those scenes create. To use imagination properly, you must direct it. You must choose what pictures to hold. You must paint in your mind a clear and confident vision of the life you desire and refuse to entertain the opposite. Every time you imagine success, your belief strengthens. Every time you visualize growth, your actions begin to align with that growth. Over time, this inner movie becomes so real that your subconscious mind begins to operate as if it has already happened, guiding your decisions and drawing matching experiences into your life. Imagination is the workshop where the unseen becomes the seen. It is the quiet bridge between thought and reality. To neglect it is to leave the greatest creative force you possess unused. The imagination builds the future in silence, forming the structure long before the world recognizes it. Those who learn to guide it consciously become the authors of their own experience, creating not from chance, but from deliberate mental design. Most people fail not because they lack intelligence, talent, or opportunity, but because they neglect the one thing that determines all outcomes, the mind. They were never taught how to guide it, how to guard it, how to use it deliberately. From childhood, they were told what to think, not how to think. They were taught to memorize facts, follow instructions, and fit into systems, but not to master their own thought process. The result is a world full of people living below their potential, not because they want to, but because they have surrendered control of the most powerful instrument they own. Mental neglect is the silent thief of success. It robs people slowly, invisibly, until one day they wake up wondering why life feels stagnant, why nothing changes, why their dreams remain distant. The mind is always at work. It never stops. It absorbs, processes, and reacts to everything it encounters. If left unguided, it will run wherever fear leads it. It will dwell on limitations, magnify problems, and replay past mistakes. Like a wild horse without a rider, it will take you in circles until you end up where you began. Most people never stop to take the reins. They let the noise of the world dictate what they think and how they feel. They spend hours consuming information, gossip, and negativity, not realizing that every bit of it becomes food for their mind. What you feed your mind becomes the pattern of your life. Just as the body weakens without proper nutrition, the mind weakens when fed confusion, fear, and distraction. The cost of mental neglect is subtle at first. You lose focus easily. You start many things but finish few. You allow doubt to become louder than faith. You begin to measure yourself by external standards, forgetting that success starts internally. Over time, this neglect turns into frustration. People chase motivation instead of cultivating discipline. They look for external solutions to internal problems. They blame the job, the economy, other people, never realizing that the real issue lies in the mind that has been left untended. An untrained mind is like an untended garden, overrun with weeds that choke out the possibility of growth. The disciplined use of the mind begins with awareness. You must first notice what occupies your thoughts throughout the day. The average person's mind drifts aimlessly, replaying fears, complaints, and doubts like a broken record. They think about what they don't want more than what they do. They react to life instead of directing it. Mental discipline means choosing your thoughts the same way you choose your words, your friends, or your food, with intention. It means catching yourself when your mind begins to wander toward worry or self-pity and deliberately steering it toward something constructive. This takes practice, but it's the foundation of self-mastery. Another cost of mental neglect is that it destroys confidence. When a person allows their mind to be filled with negative images, they begin to believe those images are reality. They start to doubt their ability to change. They mistake temporary setbacks for permanent conditions. They stop imagining what's possible because their inner world is cluttered with what's familiar. But confidence is not a gift, it is a habit of thought. The more you discipline your mind to focus on solutions, the stronger your confidence grows. The more you train it to expect progress, the more progress you make. The mind will always reflect the level of attention you give it. There is a reason the great achievers throughout history placed such emphasis on controlling thought. They understood that success is not an act of luck, it is an act of mental order. They made time every day to think clearly, to visualize, to plan, to reflect. They guarded their attention as a treasure, refusing to let trivial distractions consume it. They recognized that clarity of mind is power and confusion is weakness. To neglect your mind is to surrender that power without even realizing it. The tragedy of mental neglect is not only what it takes from you, but what it prevents you from giving. Every person is born with the potential to create, to contribute, to lead. But without mastery over their own thoughts, that potential remains dormant. The mind, when trained, becomes the greatest servant you could ever have. But when left neglected, it becomes your greatest enemy, working silently against you, shaping your days with doubt, fear, and delay. The quality of your life will always be measured by the quality of your thought. And the quality of your thought depends entirely on whether you choose to control your mind or let it control you. There is a law that governs all achievement, a quiet principle that rewards only those who understand it, the law of persistence. Every worthwhile goal demands it. Every vision, every dream, every transformation depends on it. The mind, no matter how powerful, will not produce lasting success without consistent focus. You can have the right thoughts, the right plans, even the right opportunities, but if you do not persist, if you do not hold to your vision long enough for it to mature, it will fade into nothing. The great secret that separates those who achieve from those who merely wish is not genius, luck, or timing. It is the refusal to quit when progress seems slow, when doubt whispers, when results have not yet appeared. Persistence is the unseen bridge between thought and reality. Most people never cross that bridge. They begin with excitement and end with frustration. They start strong, but their belief weakens at the first sign of delay. They think because their results do not come immediately, they are doing something wrong. They do not understand that growth has a rhythm, that success is seasons. A seed planted today does not bear fruit tomorrow. It must be watered, protected, and nurtured before it breaks through the soil. The same is true for the ideas you hold in your mind. When you think persistently about a goal, when you nourish that thought with daily action and faith, it begins to take root. But most people dig up their seed long before it has a chance to grow. Persistence requires faith in the unseen. It is the ability to keep moving when your senses tell you nothing is happening. It demands that you trust the process, even when progress is invisible. Every time you persist in the direction of your vision, you are strengthening the connection between thought and form. You are training your mind to stay focused under pressure, to hold an image until the world conforms to it. The person who can persist through silence, through failure, through doubt, becomes unstoppable, because nothing external can shake a mind that has learned to endure. The mind itself rewards persistence. Every repeated thought creates new patterns within it, new connections, new habits. The longer you hold a thought, the more your subconscious begins to act on it automatically. The moment you quit, those connections weaken and fade. This is why consistency is more powerful than intensity. A single burst of effort cannot replace the steady pressure of daily belief. The mind needs repetition to transform an idea into reality. Persistence is not about force. It is about faith held long enough to become form. Many people confuse activity with persistence. They stay busy but not directed. True persistence is not frantic motion. It is steady purpose. It is quiet, disciplined, and unwavering. It is waking up every day and doing something, even something small. that moves you toward your goal. It is holding the vision in your mind when everything around you suggests it's impossible. It is remembering why you started when the world tells you to stop. Those who persist this way become magnetic. Circumstances begin to bend in their favor because they never waver in focus or energy. Life itself begins to cooperate with those who refuse to surrender. There will always be moments when persistence feels futile, when doubt creeps in, when results seem distant, when effort feels wasted. Those moments are the true test. The mind grows stronger in the waiting, in the endurance. Each time you persist beyond discouragement, you carve a deeper path of resilience. You teach yourself that temporary defeat is not failure. That silence does not mean nothing is happening. That time is not your enemy, but your ally. The longer you persist with faith and discipline, the closer you move to inevitability. The great mistake most people make is quitting just before momentum takes over. They underestimate how close they are when they give up. The last stretch of effort, the final repetition of belief, the one more step taken after exhaustion, that is where transformation begins. Persistence is the proof of belief. It is the evidence that your vision has taken hold of you so deeply that nothing can make you abandon it. The mind recognizes this faith and begins to unlock hidden strength, ideas, and resources to match it. Those who persist long enough eventually discover that success was never waiting somewhere out there. It was being built within them, moment by moment, through the quiet discipline of never giving up.